back to Market on Close. I'm Marley. Kayden here in Chicago alongside Sam Vadas at the New York Stock Exchange. Here's some final thoughts on today's session. For me, of course, this crypto slide continues as nearly $1 billion of leveraged crypto positions were liquidated today. That wide-ranging sell-off is carrying into its third month with the sharp drop to kick off the month of December. Bitcoin fell as much as 8% to below 84,000, bringing its year-to-date drop to more than 9%. Ether plunged 10%, is down 18% since last December. Now, the drawdown has hit altcoins and some of the smaller tokens much harder, with the bottom half of the largest 100 digital assets down almost 70% this year alone. Shifting now to shopping, we of course had Black Friday, and Americans clicked their way through a record spending day, spending $11.8 billion online as more shoppers stay home and they leaned into AI tools to find the best deals. Adobe says that online sales jumped 9% from last year, powered by an 805% surge in AI-driven traffic to retail sites as chatbots were helping compare prices and tracking discounts. Some of those hot items that we saw were Pokemon cards and Lego sets, Apple AirPods, KitchenAid mixers, game consoles, and that followed a record Thanksgiving Day spend where consumers spent $6.4 billion online, kicking off Cyber Week with stronger than expected demand. And of course, today being Cyber Monday, we don't have those numbers yet, but they are expected to be strong. I have already participated today. Sam, how about you?
No, I have not participated. I am not a statistic today, but I still have time because this thing I think continues into the night. But Pokemon cards, I didn't know they were still around. That is news to me. But look, one of my takeaways was the follow through we saw from international markets. Now, of course, we did see the futures heading south this morning, and this came off the back of the weakness, particularly in Japanese stocks, which fell overnight, while the yen and those JGB yields rose amid growing expectations over there of an interest rate hike from the BOJ, that's the Bank of Japan, this month. Now, that move comes after the central bank governor Ueda said that they'd weigh the pros and cons of raising the policy rate, and that's really being interpreted and read by the markets now as a change in tone, a shift from the remarks that we've heard as far as more recent commentary. Now, the yen did firm up off the back of that, while the two-year yield, which is the most rate sensitive, rose to the highest level since 2008. That's where the 10-year has been. And so with the Bank of Japan raising rates and the Fed lowering rates, that's, as you and Nigan were talking about, Marley, where we typically start to see that carry trade unwind. And that's where we could potentially see any, I suppose, reason for correction in some of those tech stocks, particularly like we saw in August last year.
And we have some earnings from some tech stocks tomorrow, too, Sam. That's what I'm keeping my eye on for tomorrow. We've got Marvell Technology and, of course, CrowdStrike. For CrowdStrike, EPS expected to come in around 94 cents a share for the third quarter on revenue of 1.21. That would mark roughly 20% year-over-year growth for CrowdStrike, which is already up 47% year-to-date. Expectations pretty high here. Investors focused on that annual recurring revenue growth, margins, and guidance. As for Marvell, analysts estimating EPS of about 74 cents per share. That's up from 67 cents per share last quarter. Revenue forecast to come in just over $2 billion. The street looking for some top-line growth backed by strong demand and modest EPS growth. How about you, Sam? I'm betting it's tied to the Fed.
Yes, it is. We're in the blackout period, so we're not getting a huge amount of commentary, but it's going to be very interesting. Let's see if there's any reaction to what Powell says later today, because he's going to be speaking at an event. Now, he probably won't be touching on any sort of direct monetary policy because, as I mentioned, we're in this sort of blackout period right now. But anything that he said, no doubt the markets will be listening to very, very carefully and holding on to every word he says in that speech later for any clues, any hints as to what might actually happen in the next FOMC meeting in the next couple of weeks, particularly off the back of the more dovish comments that we've heard from Williams, Waller, and also Daly in the last couple of weeks. Don't forget, of course, we've seen those rate cutting expectations in the market jumping from the 30s to the 80% now, and also the market has been paying a lot of attention to who might indeed actually replace Powell, with Kevin Hassett, of course, emerging as the front runner here, Marley.
Yes, one of our only potential sources of information ahead of that meeting coming tonight in California. That's going to do it for us today on Market on Close.